Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast. My name is Janie Charlo, one of your hosts, and welcome to a new episode. I'm pretty excited today about this episode. Me and this gentleman, we've been going back and forth for a few weeks, so I'm glad that all the stars has aligned and we can get his story out and to help other people. So I am speaking to Kenneth Reddick. All right, he is the mastermind behind Brothers Brunch Foundation, which is a nonprofit with the mission to create a safe and supportive environment for Black men to discuss mental health and self-care. So, Kenneth, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And like you said, hey, we've been playing tag, but this is the time to let them know what's going on. So I'm excited.
Exactly. So, Kenneth, what inspired Brothers Brunch Foundation?
Well, my own personal journey. I actually started off a couple of years ago with an apparel line called Amazing Blessed Apparel. And I started to have some transitions in life where I had to take a break. And which I'm learning more and more is that sometimes we try to figure everything out so much till sometimes we just have to be still. Some call it meditation, some call it praying, depending on, how your faith and, how you receive it. But either way, you have to receive it from your spirit. So I literally took the mental health month off. And it came to me right before Father's Day that I need to get Black men together. I've had my own personal journey with bipolar disorder. I've had my own addiction journey with alcoholism. And when I finally was coming through, and actually yesterday was 21 months of sobriety for me. And when I finally came through and allowed myself to just sit and figure out what my purpose was in life, it was to do brothers brunches, not a time to eat, but be fed mental health and self-care awareness. Because a lot of people think that we're going to eat. And then as I was forming the nonprofit, I realized that Amazing Bless had already been taken in some areas. And I said, you know what? Why am I trying to push Amazingly Blessed and then justify the Brothers Brunch when clearly there was nothing else around Brothers Brunch that was out there? So that also led me into the purpose of the Brothers Brunch Foundation, and been doing it a little over a year now in Florida and in Georgia, but here is my hub, and it's been very well received by many men in the community at many different levels.
That's good stuff. So let's back up a little bit. So you said that you were diagnosed with bipolar. What does that mean to you? Because we hear different definitions. We hear what that means or how that it has affected other people. What is that for you, or what was that like for you?
Well, it started back in college. So, didn't identify as it. But I grew up with, and I think one of the things we have to understand is what, traumas aren't always bad traumas. Traumas are how we have to adjust to life sometimes. And I grew up very privileged. I was a little guy. And when I got to college, I started doing a lot of drinking to fit in, kind of escape myself, get that courage. Some might say it was kind of like a little man, complex. But I was growing. And that was when it had to be around my sophomore year, maybe the end of my freshman year. I took a bunch of pills. So I'd say for me, it was getting triggered, getting depressed, and feeling suicidal.
Okay. Now, any pills or what kind of pills?
Well, that time I thought I could do something with some vitamins and some aspirin and stuff that was around, because I was, like I said, I was already drinking.
Okay.
And, so my mind wasn't telling me that, hey, this is not going to be as successful, but they still had to pump my stomach and do those sorts of things.
I got you. So taking pills really to take your life is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So my question, which is because I'm in the medical field, so are you as
Mhm.
well. Um, you mentioned that in college, really, you started drinking to fit in with guys, to do those types of things. Now, do you feel like the drinking had an effect on your judgment, your brain at the time, all of that? And then do you feel that bipolar warrants a real diagnosis of what you have? Or do you feel that alcohol is what contributed to what was happening?
Well, I think it plays into both because I think a lot of times alcohol is a way that we self-medicate.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
I
agree.
can truly say that now that I am on medication for my bipolar, it's interesting because I have neuropathy as well. And one of the medications helps with both. And I actually increased it to help with my neuropathy. And I noticed a difference in my mood.
Mm-hmm.
So, but one point that you did make that is very important, alcohol plays a key role in any mental health illness. We don't realize that the way that it works in the brain, with some of the neurotransmitters. One of the things that I talk to a lot of people about is that when you have a hangover, it's not just dehydration. You've actually depleted those neurotransmitters in your brain, and you've actually sent your body into a state of depression.
Mm-hmm.
So for an alcoholic, you're never able to truly regulate your mood because you're constantly depleting those neurotransmitters. I
Mm-hmm.
was fortunate being a pharmaceutical rep for the first 14 years. I sold medications.
Mm-hmm.
So, I kind of got, like you got the medical side, I kind of got an insight to
Mm-hmm.
that. But still, being a true bipolar, as much information that I knew, until I sought treatment, I was still, it didn't make a difference what I knew.
Yeah. Now, growing up, did you have any mood issues? Did you have any issues? Did it all only start in college?
It mainly started in college. I mean, I was a very emotional kid, but it
Yeah.
wasn't. I mean, like I said, I was small, so I was sensitive. If my best
Mm-hmm.
friend didn't pick me on his team when I was little, I used to cry,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, get upset.
Mm-hmm.
So, it could have been, but as we know, a lot of time the bipolar doesn't come out until a later age, truly, into more of the adulthood.
Yeah.
Sometimes it may look more like ADHD as that borderline, but I think one of the things that I can say that truly made me a bipolar person
Mm-hmm.
is that hypomania. I'm more bipolar depressed.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't, and I mean, even though I call it hypomania, some may consider it manic, and let me describe what that is. Hyperspending, going to the strip clubs, those sorts of things, spending a bunch of money that I don't have. Some people may go out and gamble a lot, all these addictive qualities, but even hypersexuality, and all of these things are actually, triggered in that same area of the brain as well. So
Yeah.
I think that there's that casual side of thinking that, hey, he's just a wild guy. And I was Mr. at my school, I mean, I was the king, everybody voted on me because I used to dance and be everywhere. But, was that truly, and if we like you, we were talking about before, a lot of folks that are very creative, are in that manic phase,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of us do get undiagnosed. And I mean, I was a 30-year alcoholic. I was diagnosed early, didn't get the help that I needed, and ended up going through a lot of extra trauma on myself. But it helped me understand so that I would be able to help more people, because unless you know the journey, you can't just say that it's just that easy to make a right decision. The only
Absolutely.
Yes,
And we're
yes.
going to go because I want to really hone in on functional alcoholism,
Hmm.
because I think that's a big issue in our communities. But before I go there, I want to ask if we could get to a root cause. If we
Hmm.
could say a root cause, would you say the wanting to fit in
Mhm.
was the root cause. Somehow you took that as a lack in yourself,
Mhm.
and I'm going to do what these people are doing. I'm going to drink. I'm going to go to the sorority fraternity parties. I'm
Mhm.
going to, buy what they may be wearing. Do
Mhm.
you feel as a root cause,
Mhm.
you saw all of that as a lack in Kenneth, and this was really a byproduct? And I'm talking about your actions and stuff like that, of that lack that you felt.
It's interesting because I don't know if I truly felt a lack, but there's a thing that my accountability partner sent me that I've learned more about now. It's called approval addiction. And I think that sometimes, it's not even that it was low self-esteem or
Right.
that
Yeah.
I wasn't. It's just that you feel as though you have to do certain things to make sure that everybody likes you, that everybody is cool with you. That doesn't mean you don't like yourself. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that you're going to do whatever it is for others to gain their approval. And truly, that first episode, when I tried to take my life, it was a situation where I was hanging out with some friends, was drinking, and I did something that they were like, oh, you're going to get in trouble. They're going to call the people, this or that, or whatever, such and such, a little college antic. And I truly just felt as though that time, oh my gosh, I've done something wrong. Nobody likes me, this or that. And so, like I say, it wasn't, it was that approval.
Mm-hmm.
And
Where,
and I and I and I've gone through this a long time. I can't say that
yeah,
that's truly still gone,
yeah.
in certain areas.
And where do you feel it on a personal level, or even as a body of humans, as humanity, where do you feel that need for approval stems from?
Well, I think back in the day, it probably came a little bit more from the community or the family.
Mm-hmm.
But I think now a lot of the approval is dictated by the media.
Mm-hmm.
I look at life and even how people say certain things didn't happen back in the day. They did. It's just that we didn't see it as much. So
Mm-hmm.
now we're seeking certain jobs. It used to be okay just maybe if you were in Detroit to just work in the factory. Now it's like, hey, if you don't make it to this or do that, it's like, you're not accepted. If you don't wear this, you look at all these reality TV shows, social media, everything has popped up. So everybody's trying to not necessarily find their purpose,
Mm-hmm.
but find what level or what state of mind that they can get to or achieve or be a leader. And I talked about that earlier today on a live I did. And it's just like, when do we come to a point that we just find ourselves? And that's where I finally been able to come, is that, I don't care. And one thing I have is my purpose is my peace.
Mm-hmm.
And when you find your purpose, you don't worry about approval from everyone else. But in society, that's all we do, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
is seek approval for how many likes we have on Instagram, how many views we had. If we really dig deeper into it, that's why I say I'm not totally removed, but
Mm-hmm.
at least when I walk, when I talk, when I speak, many might say, you're sitting up here talking about you tried to commit suicide and you're bipolar and you had legal issues, but you've been with a pharmaceutical company for 24 years.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be talking about that.
Yeah.
But that's approval.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what I hear you saying is that peace somehow quiets that need for approval. Some
Mm-hmm.
peace in your life will
Mm-hmm.
quiet that need for approval.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. But as I said, you got to find your purpose
Mm-hmm.
to have that peace.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
not, you're still going to be running around.
Now, is Brothers Brunch Foundation your purpose?
It is. It
Okay.
is. Several signs, like I said, I wanted to be named one thing, it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Just being out, being able to explain and talk to people. I know it's my purpose because 80% of my conversations in life now are about brothers brunch and my
Mm-hmm.
journey,
Mm-hmm.
and when it just feels good,
Yeah.
it's not about what anyone else says or how they respond. It just feels good just to talk about it.
Yeah.
And how often can we say that, the things that we do? I mean, even my job, I love my job. I've been telling people I love my job, but my job wasn't my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I'm going to be doing till the end of my retirement and beyond.
Yeah.
And no matter what happens, this is truly my purpose. And when you have people call and say, I didn't have anybody else to call, or or when people see you as just a leader that's genuine, not
Yeah.
with a title, but just genuinely helping others, but I know the need as a Black man,
Mm-hmm.
and I know my journey, and I want people to understand that we can have some pitfalls, some huge pitfalls. I do a success and sobriety group that we're starting at work. And one of the things that I said, if I didn't have the right people in place, I would not have a job today.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody's not going to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
So through the Brothers Brunch Foundation, I'm letting Black men as well as other men, I focus on the Black men, but anyone that needs me, I help. But
Mm-hmm.
I let them know that, hey, I made it. You
Mm-hmm.
can make it too. But
Yeah.
let's try to make sure that we do the right things early on for us, our families, our kids, and the community, so that we don't have to have as many pitfalls, because nobody else gonna make it through
Mm.
what I made it through. And I could almost guarantee you that.
Yeah. And I agree with you. Our job and then our work is two different things. They're
Hmm.
totally two different things. And
Yeah.
sometimes you're lucky that you could align both.
Yes.
And that's a
Yes.
pure, good, full 360-degree alignment. But
Hmm.
sometimes you're not that lucky and you got to do it separate. But
Exactly.
I want to talk about alcoholism and
Hmm.
functional alcoholism. Now,
Hmm.
you started drinking in college. You didn't drink in high school, right? Like you started once you got into college. So 18,
Right.
19 years old.
I see, that's the thing. I was a year ahead. So that's another factor into, me fitting in. I was a year ahead. So I
Okay.
literally had just turned 17 in March and went to
Okay.
college in June.
Okay.
So yes,
Now, what were you drinking? Were you drinking, beer? Were you drinking hard liquor? What were you drinking? And how much were you drinking?
everything. And first of all, I was back in the court days. So some days we would see who can drink the most quarts. Old English 800, St. Ides, whatever it was. But I'll be honest with you. My first day of college, I got with one of my guys who was like an older brother. And I may have drank a couple of times before that, but nothing major. But this really, started in college.
Mhm.
Um, the first day I got drunk and was just barfing all over the place,
Mhm.
but I think that probably has something to do with it too, because I was like, hey, I got to hang. This my big bruh. Hey, I'm coming up here. I can't be doing this. So I got to keep drinking and make sure I'm good the next time,
Mhm.
but
Got
so
to build
yeah,
up
I
your
mean,
tolerance.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. But I used to drink so much, I don't know if it was tolerated or not, because most of the time I couldn't even tell you how much.
Now, did you function? Did you finish college? Did you
Oh
go to
yeah.
classes? So you were able to finish
Oh
school.
yeah, I
Clear.
finished. I finished. I went to some classes,
Okay.
and it's interesting that you say that, because when I went back to recruit at my school after a few years, one of my professors was like, "I never thought you would have made it."
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad, but it's a reality,
Mm-hmm.
because of what they used to see. My dean used to say, all you do is ride around campus with your little car with that boom, boom, boom music, because a lot of times I'd be out drinking, hanging with the fellas, and why should I be drinking, riding through the college, but that's
Mm-hmm.
what it was back in the day.
Ask you this. What I hear, because you were drinking mostly with your guy friends, right? So was this seeking approval from other guy friends, other guy? I'm just because
I
I
drank with
know
everybody.
men say it again.
I drank with everybody. It
Okay.
wasn't it wasn't a guy thing.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I
Because I
was
know
known.
sometimes that's an ego thing. I know that sometimes
Yeah,
is ego, like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna drink more than you, or I'll put you under the table type situation. So I'm trying to understand the thinking behind it.
I mean, for me, the drinking was like, hey, I got this. I got the bottle of this. So, hey, we gonna get
Yeah.
this tonight.
Yeah.
It was kind of,
I got
I
you.
don't care if it was guy or girl, what you want.
Yeah.
You want me to get you some of this, I got this over here. Even in my adult age, I remember one time several years ago when I used to literally have a bottle of Grey Goose at my house every day.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody would just come to my house because they knew I had it. I mean, we go to the club and everybody knew I was going. One time somebody say, Scoop, you buying the drinks tonight, right? It's like everybody knew
Mm-hmm.
that I was going to be the guy with the alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
because I was always drinking. But then they knew that, okay, we're going to have to watch him. Who going to watch him tonight?
Gotcha. So you were able to finish college, clearly
Mm-hmm.
get a pretty good job.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is a functioning alcoholic?
Hmm. Well, a functioning alcoholic is, for me, I would drink mainly all night for the most part, maybe at least till about 2 or 3, and
And
go to
this is
sleep.
7 days a week
Pretty much, yeah, yeah.
and still drinking like alcohol out
I mean, when I stopped drinking, I literally used to have to buy a pint a day just so I wouldn't drink more. Because if I drank a fifth, I don't know how much would be gone.
mm-hmm.
And
And
what if I bought a
straight, you
fifth?
just drank this straight?
No, I mean sometimes I mix it. Sometimes I drink it straight, depending on what it was.
Okay.
Because it was never really consistent. A lot of times it depends on what my pocket was,
Yeah.
you
So
know.
drinking till 2 a.m., got to get up for work, right?
hmm And most of the time, just hoping that I don't smell like liquor when I go into one of my offices, because like I say, I've been a rep.
Mm-hmm.
And, I would even, tell my boss now that, because he knows that I'm doing the sobriety. As I said, I have several initiatives at work. I've
Yeah.
talked on mental health panels, being open on my job. And, I could say that, hey, some days I'd be like, Lord, don't let me meet him to go on this ride along and I smell like alcohol today,
Mm-hmm.
because, every day I would drink. I mean, there was not a day. The only time I didn't drink is if I was on probation.
Okay. Tell us about probation.
I mean, there's been several situations over the years that drinking has truly given me a big handicap.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I say that, the prayers and having the right bosses there that have truly, stood by me. But that's one thing is that, I'm coming up on, like I said, I just celebrated 21 months of sobriety, but this is the first time I did it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I had 2 years before, and as soon as I got off probation, I was right back drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, probation for me kept me clean. I used to have to go blow, drop, do all that stuff, every day, at some points and times. And, I was, that had the fear. My dad always says, live every day like you're on probation. And I joke and I tell people, unless you've been on probation, you probably don't know what that means. But that means you're going to do everything not to get in trouble any more than what you already are or could be.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the only time that I was straight,
Mm-hmm.
was when I was on probation. Outside of that, like I said, as soon as I get off, then I was back at it. Especially if I got off in like February, because February, for some reason, probably part of the seasonal affect disorder, October and February were my 2 months of situations happening. It's almost like my parents would know. And it's almost like they were about 6 months or so apart.
Mm-hmm.
Have a good 6 months and then have something happen, just because I got too comfortable. Uh,
Yeah.
like you say, I was functioning enough and then
Yeah.
kind of get scared straight, but never really turn that corner the way that I should.
Yeah. So you go to work throughout the day and then come right back home in the evening, go grab you something to drink, and then that was your evening as well.
That was my evening.
Okay.
That was it. I mean, unless I stopped by somewhere and hung out, like I say, for years, I mean, it's like everybody, when I lived in Detroit, I'm gonna be honest with you, everybody knew me at the strip clubs. So I mean, hey, I go by there, have me a drink, chill out, or depending on, if I wanted to drive, if I didn't drive, if I couldn't drive, whatever, hey, I have friends, hey, come on over here. I'll get you a couple of drinks, couple of dances, whatever, but see, that was all a part of that, going back to that bipolar part and the alcoholism, because that was that manic mind of mine. But then that alcohol would kick in as well.
So how did this affect your relationships? I know you have a son. I don't know if you have more than one son.
Yes.
I do know, okay.
Yes.
How did this affect your relationship with your children and any relationships that you had at the time?
Well, I have a 24-year-old daughter, and it had a huge impact. I was in Detroit, Michigan. As a child.
You grew up in Detroit. You grew up in Detroit.
No, I'm originally from Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay.
But I lived up in Detroit for 17 years. That's where I started working, with my current company.
Okay.
And then I moved down here 7 years ago. The reason why I moved down here was because my daughter was a senior in high school, because her mother was from here.
Okay.
And but it had a huge impact. Visits where, directly as well, because of other relationships that I chose that weren't healthy. It truly had a huge impact on my daughter mentally growing up. Probably still does in some areas. I many times when I was supposed to get up or we were supposed to do something, I didn't. I mean, we did a lot together, and many might say I did more than most fathers do. But for me, looking back on it, and knowing the impact that it had on her, I really wish that I would have gotten a hold of this sooner, but this is an illness. So I've learned not to beat myself up. I've learned that there's no true makeup to this, because people don't understand, but at least she can say that she's proud of me now.
Yeah.
Whereas before, she may not have been. I have two bonus kids that are 21 and 13. I've been around their lives for about the past 8 years now, and they've seen some things. The older one has seen some things. The 13-year-old is kind of seen some things here or there, but not, as to the magnitude of knowing things, like my 24-year-old, but it feels good to be present. And as I say, 21 months ago, I was literally out on the bench.
Yeah.
And my daughter came and picked me up and took me to Ridgeview, my my oldest. And, I look back on it and I'm like, wow, but she was a part of this, new journey. Was everything easy the last 21 months, especially getting, kick started. Like I say, I want to do with men, kick start on a new mental health and self-care journey. No, it wasn't. But, to be where I am today and to know that, that 5-year-old is going to have 6-year-old now, is going to have his dad. And then I am there to coach his soccer team and, take him to places. But, at a young age, there were some mornings when, hey, I'd be out doing my drinking and, hey, maybe I wasn't there to take him to school in the morning, but now I'm always present. And that's and those are my principles too. Positive, consistent, and present. I always talk positive, but I wasn't consistent and present in my kids' lives.
Was there anything that the people in your life, and it sounds like you've had amazing support, like, you speak on, the bosses you've had, it sounds like you've had amazing support, but was there anything with the people in your life who were supporting you, could have done differently, that could have helped you? I understand addiction is when you're ready, that's when it'll happen, but was there anything that maybe somebody who is going through with this with a family member, is there anything that they could do that would change things? So was there anything your support system could have done that would have helped you? Was there anything different that could have gotten you off this hamster wheel earlier?
Honestly, the only thing that they could have done is, and this is what I tell everyone. I talk a lot to people that are family of addicted loved ones. You have to understand that people like me, we can't take advice. You just have to offer us a sense of hope.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the biggest thing is that when we love folks, and I've probably been guilty of this too, just as in trying to reach out to people. And this is consistent with others that are addicts like myself, that we're working on different things at different platforms, is that there's nothing you can really do.
Mm-hmm.
You don't understand. Unless you've been through this situation of being bipolar, unless you have truly been an addict. Like I say, how many times have I heard, or how many times have people told people, well, you can lose your job. I mean, as a bipolar, as an addict, and drinking, those sorts of things, it's almost more frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like you beat me up more as if I don't know something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just consistently tell people, and there's a gentleman who was an addict. His son is homeless. He's an addict. But even with his son, he knows that, hey, he may call for an idea or something, but he can just go out there and just say, hey, son, whatever you need, I'm here. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
When we care about people, we tend to say too much sometimes because we're trying to convince them. But even myself, being an alcoholic, someone else's journey is totally different than mine. All I can do is offer them sense of hope through conversation and my journey. I never, in any other conversations, tell anyone at this point in my life what you need to do or don't you know.
Mm-hmm.
All I can do, and I use the term we, even if you notice when we've talked about certain things, I keep saying people like me, what we have to do. If you're not a part of we, all you can do is just give them a hug and say, baby, I'm here for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the most comforting thing that you can do, because you never know when you're going to trigger.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been triggered by my parents. I mean, even through sobriety,
Mm-hmm.
we all get certain triggers, but
Mm-hmm.
if you're not in your right mind, medicated, sober, and I'm saying healthy, treatment,
Mm-hmm.
then, and my parents can finally sleep at night.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the times, like I said, it's not their fault. It's not anybody's fault, because I've done the same thing. We care and we try to talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we got to understand that we're not the right person to talk to them. And I'm not saying that would have made my journey any simpler, because I believe I went through everything. I needed to go to Ridgeview
Yeah.
so I can understand. Even if it wasn't just a part of me getting sober, because I left and the taste was removed from my mouth,
Mm-hmm.
I needed that experience to be able to connect with other people so that they could trust me.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's why I talk about that purpose. It's not always about you. As much as I needed to go and get sober, that was my final destination, to say, you know what? You've got all the tools that you need for now to help people. Because I've had people that I had a brother's brunch one time. Only one guy showed up. Most people be like, oh man, that's bad. Nope. He had just gotten out of Ridgeview the week before.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you know the journey that someone has been on, you can't even attempt to open your mouth and say anything besides, I'm here for you.
Yeah, I agree. I think empathy is all we could really offer.
Mm-hmm.
Is saying that I feel your pain. I have not been through this, but I am sending you healing. I am sending you understanding and hope that you could get clarity on what's happening. I've done some research, and it's quite interesting that how the brain works. There's a lot of neurotransmitters in the brain, and alcohol, any type of drugs, I mean, whether it's prescription or not, affects neurotransmitters.
Mm-hmm.
And there's ways that you can change the functioning of the brain, where you're not only firing that one pathway, which is addiction, that says I just need the next drink, because that's really what happened, is only one pathway,
Right.
that's firing back and forth. You can open up those pathways and create new ways for the brain to get reconnected and completely get rid of addiction, and completely get over, bipolar, so that pathway is just going A to B, A to B, you may go A to D. And I just want people to know that there's lots of ways out here, you could do things to, if you feel like you have that addiction and only that same pathway is going on in your brain. There's so many ways to tap into this brain, so many ways. So let's talk about Brothers Brunch Foundation, okay? Now, this is for Black men. The men that you are helping, do you find that they have your same story? Like, some of these triggers were for approval, or, lack of clarity somewhere in their life? What are some of the people that you're helping? What type of man could benefit from Brothers Brunch Foundation?
Any man. And I say that because some people say, well, that's kind of broad. No, because I was on a call last night, and one of the things that we brought up was there's mental health and there's mental illness. Okay. Any man can benefit in taking better care of their mental health. That's why I say we are mental health and self-care awareness. I didn't say mental illness, crisis, because so many times we wait till something happens. That's why I tell people therapy is therapeutic, not problematic. Because we wait until something's wrong. We have men that sit in a group and they have that light bulb or trigger that comes on at, like, maybe that's why I act like that. They weren't off the chain. They weren't alcoholics. They weren't manic. But they realize, or even identifying with the past trauma of, why don't I feel as though I'm a special dad? Maybe because your father wasn't there. So those are things that, but then I have, people that are part of the group that have been to prison. The dynamics of this table. That's why, even if you see my card, if you go to any one of my profiles, it says CEO Motivational Conversationalist. We don't have anyone speak to them. We don't talk about, hey, what you need to do. We identify around the table as Black men.
Yeah, I like that.
So that's why I say any. Now the ultimate goal is to kickstart Black men on a new mental health and self-care journey. Now, if there's a man that is higher functioning, that, or could I say, has better mental health than someone else, I may give them a session to, if they haven't tried therapy. I've had men that have started therapy. I know one friend of mine, he has 2 therapists, just because he felt as though that's what he needed. Friends people that have been a part of the group that have started going to the chiropractor. I talk about self-care and how important that is to get those tension points. It helped me with my blood pressure. Last year I had a men's holiday relaxation. It's coming up again. Last year I had 10 men. This year I want to have 30 men just to come in and experience sound bath, salt cave, oxygen bar, lingam steam, those services, because these are some of those self-care mechanisms that gives me the energy and life to be able to do so many more things. But how many times does any Black man say, oh, I don't have the time, or I'm stretched out, I can't do anymore?
Which brings me to my next question. What do you think is the reason for that in the Black community, specifically Black men? Why are they not taking care of themselves? Why is mental health not talked about among men? Why is it hard for Black men to show other Black men love? What is your take on that?
It hasn't been taught. When we think about the intergenerational traumas and things that have happened, and like I say, some things don't have to be like so far extreme, but we think they do. We have to think about, the feelings of crying, are we taught to, go and get regular checkups? This has been something that's been going on forever. And we as Black men, we as Black parents, we as a Black community always feel as though we know what's best for our kids. And so we continue to treat and I guess make priorities the same things that were priorities from years ago. But things have changed now.
Yeah. And in your personal journey, in your personal walk, did your father or whatever male role model you had growing up, was love expressed easily and effortlessly? Do you feel like you received love easily and knew how to express that?
Yeah, and that's why I say I was not the norm. It's funny because when people used to joke around and say that we were like Huxtables, because my dad was so funny. He was a community guy, he did so much, but he loved us. My mom was there. They've been married over 50 some years. So, I wasn't the norm, but that's why I say, my trauma was I had it so good to when I got out in the real world, I didn't know how to face it. Because, we were that family that, hey, we got in trouble, but Dad used to say before the end of the night, come on, you're my best friend, give me a hug, this or that. So
So you had healthy examples. You had wonderful examples, but it was, like you said, the need to fit in, I guess, with the unhealthy side of things, which is that polarity that we live in. Which, because I know people say, bipolar, but we live in a dualistic world. You have to learn how to balance.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Some of us can balance easy.
Yes.
And it's kind of like depression. And I tell people now that I'm treated, I say that, you know what? I may get down, but I don't get stuck.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. Even with the mania, people may go out and spend some money from time to time, but everybody not going to the strip club 3-4 times a week, spending $100. That's not just, that's manic behavior.
Yeah. And you have to know how to balance. And then you have to know what's the root cause of me doing this? What voice is telling me go to the strip club today, tomorrow, the next day, and keep spending all my money? And that is balance. But we live in a very dualistic world.
Yes.
And the truth is, on a spiritual tip, you're here to balance it.
Yes.
Now, it's tough because the thing is, you could get so stuck in that dark side, you don't know how to come back to the other side. And that's where you have people like you that say, hey, I've been there, I'm gonna grab you and bring you on this side.
And what we have to do as Black men, the other thing is I'm strengthening the Black men to have more mentors, to have more examples of what we need to do in the future. Because the reality is that the only way we're going to change these generational cycles is to start with the early generations that we have now. I say that because even my 6-year-old, he's on his 3rd therapy session, but he's excited about going. He told somebody the other day, oh yeah, when we leave here, I'm going to see my therapist.
Nice.
But before, a parent might say, son, you don't have to tell everybody. You don't have to tell everybody that. But the way that we, like you said, some people get so far gone until they get to the dark side. That's when they want to get help.
Yeah.
But we'll now, as adults, want to go and get a life coach.
Yeah.
Our kids need a life coach. I'm 4 generations removed from my son. Absolutely. As much as I can instill some family values, I don't know what it takes truly to raise a child today. But we as Black people, Black fathers, Black parents are taught not to ask. You gonna handle it. You make sure you discipline. You make sure you do that. Somebody posted yesterday, have the parents today gotten soft? No, it's different ways of parenting.
Yeah.
You don't have to do everything the same way. And that's where the therapist can help your child have a third party to speak their mind. They may not want to say anything to you, and that's hurting them. That's why we as Black men are the way that we are today. And that's the difference that the Brothers Brunch Foundation is trying to make, because I'm partnering with people like the National Parents Union, and I'm going to speak at schools to fathers and kids like donuts, donuts and dads, just because we have to have a shift overall in the family. It's not just about the man doing differently. We have to think differently about raising our kids. That's the only way the men are going to change.
I'm with you. We cannot do anything if the family unit is not whole and complete and healed. So how can Black women help in the healing of Black men?
Get therapy too. I think everything goes to what we've been taught. And when I say get therapy, that's not a negative.
No, it's
that's
not.
Because we need to have someone there to process our thoughts and feelings. Sometimes my therapist doesn't even respond. Sound to me like you got it together. How many times do we do that when we're talking to somebody that we know? And the culture has to heal as a whole. It's not just going to be the Black man that heals and all of a sudden the
That's
family
why I asked, how can the Black woman help the Black man heal as well? Because we all have to do our own healing journey. Right. But right. And when we individually heal, we collectively heal. I'm a strong believer in that.
And that's
so, yeah. So, I think it's important for women to hear, okay, well, if you're dealing with a brother, you're dealing with a husband, you're dealing with a guy friend that's going through this, what can you do? How can you facilitate?
Number one, understand and listen. It goes back to what I was talking about, being bipolar and being an addict. You really don't know what somebody's going through. You really don't understand why they're going through it. A lot of times the way we react and we act and react, we try to say that nobody else has played a part of it, or I make my own decisions, I'm the man, this or that, but it's something that influenced you. And the woman never knows what that influence is. And I'm not saying just sit around and take mess, but try to truly understand. And and I had a question that was even asked to me too, about what if the woman makes more than a man? We all have to be comfortable with our own spirit. And I say that because the expectation a lot of times and pressures comes from the man is supposed to. I'm gonna say
that's probably why we have a lot of our Black men with mental issues, because of the pressure, because of the pressure to perform, the pressure to do this, to be this, to so I think individually,
that's one of the biggest, I'd say, is just work together. The biggest support is working together, not saying what you're gonna do or what they gonna do. How can we make this better together?
I like that. So a couple questions and we're gonna wrap up. I think we got a lot out. So is there a book that maybe helped you along your way, that you could recommend to our listeners who maybe is struggling, who it don't have to be about this, it could be something totally different, whatever you would recommend to our listeners? Is there a book? I believe reading is so important. There's a large percentage of people that do not pick up a book after high school. So reading is so important. Is there any book that you could recommend to our listeners that helped you along your journey?
It's funny because it's 3 books that I truly read. It just depends on where you are. If for me, the Sobriety, it's a book called Sober is Dope, that truly helped me out understanding my addiction. There's a book by a local person here in Atlanta called Get Off the Couch that truly gives some good understanding and insight. But I think one of the books for me that was more of a spiritual perspective, as someone that's local too, is the Amos Shift, because it talks about Amos in the Bible, and it talks about, making shifts in life. And, it truly got me to understand. And that was probably the first book that I read as I started this new journey. And it just really helped me out about learning about the shifts that I need to take, and also understanding sometimes when I shift, everybody not going to shift with me.
That's true.
Yeah.
Some people only know you when you were drunk.
Yeah.
And they're not meant to go into your sober life. So,
Exactly.
that's true. And you got to learn when we come to end of the road with certain relationships. It's not that we don't love these people. It's just that we're at the fork in the road.
Yeah. And that's what a good friend of mine told me even before I read that book. She said one day, she said, Scooter, she said, one thing you got to realize is that when you get to that fork, everybody can't go.
That's true.
And that sticks in my head. No matter who it is, everybody can't go, because your purpose is your purpose. And if they're not aligned with your purpose, don't let them disrupt your peace. That means they can't go.
Exactly. And then my other question is, right now, what would you say is the greatest matter of your heart?
My purpose. My purpose is a lot that encompasses that. My purpose of why I'm here. My purpose and what I do. I think about that old, that book that's been around forever, what Purpose Driven Life.
Yeah.
I can truly connect to that now. When it comes to my family, when it comes to, just the community and the men, it's been enlightening, but I could truly say that my purpose is what I'm centered on.
Yeah. And then, I just want to say I'm super proud of you. I think your journey is tremendous. A lot of people don't get to this point. You said 21, 22 months right now.
21 months.
And doing it on your own, and have found your purpose in it. And I think that's the secret. It's like taking this pain and transmuting it, turning it into something that you could teach other people. And I think that is the secret when we go through painful trials in our life, is transmuting that energy into something that's beautiful and amazing, because we don't go through all this for nothing. Never.
Hey, we got a testimony.
Exactly.
And one thing I will say about the Brothers Brunch Foundation is that we are nonprofit. My events and the things we do for men are at no cost. I have a testimony to share.
Yes.
And I don't want anyone that needs to receive the testimony to not receive it because they thought that they couldn't afford. I know last time they were talking about this. I couldn't pay this. No, we're gonna figure out the way to make it work. And that's how I feel, because God didn't charge me for my testimony.
Exactly. So how can everybody contact you, get in touch with Brothers Brunch Foundation, donate? Let everybody know how they can reach you. Okay.
First of all, everything is on the website, www.brothersbrunchfoundation.com. Instagram is Brothers Brunch Foundation Inc. Also on Facebook, it's Brothers Brunch Foundation Inc. All of the events that are coming up are on Eventbrite, but it's also on our website. The Instagram, it posts up all the pictures and everything there. I mean, YouTube, there's a link. There's a donate through Givelify. Don't forget, right now it's November time frame, and hey, Giving November is coming up November the 28th. So yeah, just through all those platforms, hey, if you need to figure out another way, just message me. Hey, we appreciate all the support that you can give, because like I said, all the support goes to the men and to the growth of the Brothers Brunch Foundation. But even like I tell the men when they come to the events, I said, don't tell me, you came to support me. You came to support the men at the table.
Exactly.
And so I don't want anyone to ever think that they're supporting Scooter. They're supporting the men that are going to be a part of the Brothers Brunch Foundation events.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's beautiful what you're doing. I think it's, like you said, it's a table where you could be vulnerable as a man. This life is tough. This life is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're all on this journey. Some of us are a little bit ahead than others.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is our divine duty to help everybody along the way. Like you said, they may not take your advice. They may not want to listen to it, but drop that seed, because you never know, how that will grow and how that will blossom if you just drop that seed, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, we all have to share. We all have to help. And, it's once you get in that zone, just like we said, when we were talking at first, you were like, you gave my husband your card and he gave it to me, and, this or that or whatever. And, once you start realizing that divine order in your life, and like I say, and I almost posted this earlier, I say, are your 80% of your conversations what you trying to do? Are 80% of your conversations about what you're doing? Because if 80% of your conversations are about what you're doing, you probably found your purpose.
And it's so funny you said that, because the divine works through us.
Mm-hmm.
It works through the spirit of us. And you're right. Like, we were traveling, I think we were in Florida, and we stopped for lunch, and he came back in the car. It was the Amazingly Blessed t-shirts. Yep. He said, here, take this. We'll follow on Instagram. And I did. And sometimes you got to do what the spirit tells you to do.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And here we are. So it had nothing to do with t-shirts.
Nah, nothing. Now we talking about life.
Do with t-shirts. So
yes.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners before we wrap up?
First of all, thank you, for this opportunity, to share my story. I've watched you, and I don't know how we end up reaching out, but I think both of us saw each other just doing heartfelt things for, our communities and people. So I want to thank you. The only thing I say is that we can't do it alone. No matter what it is, if it's organizations like yourself, individuals like yourself, and I'm talking about, as groups trying to make a change, as individuals trying to make a change as individuals, we have to support each other, but we have to find the right ways to support. We have to be selfish for ourselves to take care of ourselves, but we can't be selfish in helping others.
Absolutely.
Like I say, my main thing is, my purpose is my peace. Find your purpose.
And I think everybody's looking for that peace. Everybody's looking for that peace. And, like the quote says, if you want to go far, go alone. But if you want to go fast, go alone. Mm-hmm. But if you want to go far, go together. So that's it. Well, guys, this has been another episode of Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast. My name is Janie Charlo, and we just finished having an amazing conversation with Kenneth. He is the CEO of Brothers Brunch Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization. Reach out, show some support, donate. This is the giving season. It doesn't have to be much. Give $5, give $10, whatever it is. Trust me, it goes a long way. Not only that, when you give through divine compensation, the universe has to return it back to you. So this is the season of giving. So reach out to Kenneth. They're doing amazing things. Now you are in the Douglasville, Georgia area, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I wanted to put that out. So if you're
Yes.
local to the area, Douglasville, Lithia Springs, Austell.
But then let me let you know. Let me let you know. We also do it in Jacksonville, Florida as well. We didn't even touch on that part. So, but
Okay.
but
Awesome.
we definitely right here. This is our home base. So yes, ma'am.
Yeah, because I got your car traveling through Florida, so it wasn't even here. Exactly. So guys, Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast is a podcast that is inspired by love, relationships, spirituality, justice, culture, family, children, finances, freedom, personal growth, energy and vibrations, universal principles, health, education, masculine and feminine energy, music, and all things of the heart and soul. Our mission is to keep our minds and our hearts connected for perfect alignment. We appreciate you guys. Please like, subscribe, and share. And we'll catch you at the next episode. Kenneth, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Take care, guys.